Hello, 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 Immigration Fam. How's everyone doing? All right. I'm going to wait for people to join me, but in the interim, I will introduce myself. My name is Ifeoma Odunlami. I am an immigration attorney from the Odunlami law firm in New Jersey and in Houston. So although we have locations in Houston and in Cedar Knolls, New Jersey, we help clients from all 50 states of the United States. All right. If you need to reach us, please feel free to call us at 973-993-1900. And we have a Houston number, but I haven't crammed that yet. If you call us at the 973-993-1900 number, you will reach somebody that can help you regardless of where you are. So how's everyone doing? Been a while. This administration has us so busy, working. I'm really trying to get in to do my lives once a week so that I can update you guys on what's going on. For those who do not know me, my name is Ifeoma Odunlami. Like I said, I am an immigration attorney. I'm also an immigrant. And so my work as an immigration attorney is very personal to me. I am an immigrant. All my family who are here are immigrants. None of us were not, my extended family, not my kids. My kids were born here. So I'm talking about my mom, my siblings, we're all originally Nigerians. We came here, we went through the immigration process, and we have our papers. So my mission and my vision for my fellow immigrants is to help them get legal status so that they can live here in the United States, contribute fully to the United States without being afraid of being deported, without being afraid of being separated from their families. And no time has this mission been more urgent than now. Everybody, we see what's going on in the news, we see what's going on in social media. And so it's really important that people know what's going on. We have to separate the news that's not that's not correct. We have to separate the fear mongering. We have to separate the optics that basically are there to stop us from finding a pathway that can allow us to live here peacefully. So I have a great topic today, but I wanted to talk about some of what's going on in the news, because I feel that some of this might affect some of you, so you need to know this. Thank you, sweet Tintin. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube, and I'm on TikTok. So catch me in one of those social media avenues. Let's talk about the latest guidance by the Trump administration. This one is actually really interesting. So the Trump administration sometime last week instructed U.S. consular officers to include a variety of health conditions when determining whether to approve somebody for an immigrant visa. That's a green card. And we're talking about consular, which means people who have applied for their visas from abroad. And part of the conditions that these officers will consider would be things like obesity, whether the person has diabetes, maybe cancer, sleep apnea, a bunch of this commonplace health conditions that really are commonplace. So I was just thinking about it, and it struck me that a lot of this health conditions like diabetes is very prevalent in people of color, right? And obesity, who's going to determine who's obese? Let me talk about Africa. In Nigeria, women, our definition of obese could very well be different from somebody who's not Nigerian, who's not Black. So there's a lot of discretion being given to the consular officers to make a determination whether somebody can get a green card. And it's actually a little disconcerting because, you know, everyone knows how long this immigration process takes. I'm not talking of this guidance is not for B1, B2. It's not for tourist visas. It's for people like a US citizen who's filed for their spouse, maybe filed for a child, maybe filed for a parent. And we all know how long this takes. You know, maybe a sibling who's filed for their, you know, a family member, their sibling, and it's taken, what, 15 years. And then you go to before the interview, before the consular officer for an interview that would determine you being able to get your green card and come to the United States after waiting for so long to get this process. And then they deny you because the officer thinks you're fat. That's really what that guidance is. You know, that's really what that guidance is. And so basically the thought process behind that guidance from the Trump administration is really that they're looking to deny people who they feel have health conditions that may cause them to get benefits, medical benefits from the United States, which they feel would cost money. So they would be looking for somebody who is looking to come to the United States and who may be found to have some of these health conditions. Your job is to prove that you have the money to support yourself if you come to the United States and you have these health issues. So it's important for you to have documentation. Do you have health insurance? Do you have sufficient funds to self-finance your medical needs? That's really it. So this officer is going to look at somebody and determine that maybe a woman who's very curvy, right, not fat by our definition, they could consider her fat because she has a big behind, maybe, who knows? We don't know how it's going to be, you know, how they're going to make this determination. Are they going to be looking for the medical reports to give a clinical diagnosis of obesity? Or it seems to me that the officer is allowed to make that determination. So these are the ways that this administration is really trying to curtail legal immigration. So we always told you guys it wasn't about people being here undocumented. This is just to stop people from certain parts of the world from coming into the United States. Another thing is the refugee program has really been limited to people from South Africa, you know, white South Africans, and really that's it. And so when you have an interview, right, it's important to talk to, if you have an interview before the embassy in a consular process, you really want to reach out to an attorney to discuss what proof you should be taking with you. So basically it boils down to the same thing. Rich people will be able to come here. So if you are a wealthy person in your country, then of course you can show that you have the money to self-fund your health issues. And it goes back again to poor people, people who don't have money are not going to be able to come into the United States, you know, under this administration. So now the other thing I want to talk about, we've had a lot of good news actually in the past month. So regardless of what's going on, we want to let you guys know that cases are still being won, and you know, people who have prioritized their immigration status are still finding a pathway. And that's what I really recommend that people do, because the truth of the matter is, if you're afraid and you don't file a petition, you are exactly where this administration wants you to be. This administration wants you to be afraid to file, so that if they pick you up, you don't have anything that can, you know, that can be used to argue in your favor. So we had a case, and I'm going to tell you about this case, you know, of course, making it as vague as possible, because we do not, you know, want to, you know, give confidential information. But this case really was, I mean, we were so excited. We had a client who was a green card holder from a long time, from when our client was little. He was a green card holder, right? And he never became a US citizen for, I guess, whatever reasons. I suspect part of those reasons might have been because he had some criminal convictions. But it hadn't been a problem all these years. He would travel and come back without a problem. And so this time around, a couple of months ago, he traveled to celebrate with his family members abroad, and then came back and was stopped at the border, at the airport, and they held him in detention because of this criminal convictions from over 20 years ago that had never been a problem. He hadn't done, there was nothing else that was on his record apart from 2 instances of arrest, which, he had done paid whatever fines he had to pay on that, and that was over. Well, in this administration, we've been telling you guys, if you have a green card and you have been arrested, even if that case was dismissed, you might not want to be leaving this country at this time, because we've seen that people are being stopped and being put in detention for minor infractions, such as an old marijuana charge that was dismissed. That's what we're seeing. So our client had they had traveled, and then when he was detained, his family member reached out to us so that we could assist in bringing, bonding him out. And they denied the bond, so he stayed in there, and we had to have a trial. So the department, ICE was trying to deport him. The administration was trying to deport him because they felt that this crimes made him deportable. And this is another thing we've told you before, that even though you have a green card, you can still be deported. So we worked really hard, and the supervising attorney in my office worked really hard with our team members, gathering all the documents, putting a powerful case on. And guess what? The judge found in favor of our client that he was not deportable. And so he was released to be with his family members. And what I want to tell a lot of people is this: having excellent representation matters, right? Because we had to put a compelling package together to convince the judge, right? Part of the package was based on law. We were able to show that he was not deportable. We're also able to show, give an overview of this man, the kind of person he was today. And even though DHS reserved the right to appeal because they didn't agree with the judge's decision, in the end, we won this case. The judge agreed with us, and our client is now with his family, right? I cannot imagine how traumatic it must have been for them. He's now with his family, and and hopefully he can put in the process to file his naturalization. Immigration attorneys are not form fillers. We're not filling forms. We're looking at laws. We're looking at policies. We're looking at whatever is going on to help our clients, even those with complex immigration cases, to find a way to stay in the United States. Okay, so if you or somebody is in deportation proceedings, or you or somebody has an immigration issue that's complex, you should reach out to us. Let's talk to you and see whether there's a way that we can resolve your case for you. At the very least, that you're going to have very, very, very fervent representation, because every case we represent every client as if they are family members, right? We work really hard and we push hard for our clients, okay? So the other case I have, which actually this was a VAWA case we filed a long time ago. And the reason I remember this case in particular was because our client had literally very little evidence. And the reason she had little evidence was because the marriage where there was abuse had happened such a long time ago. Like, I think she came to my office, she had been married to this guy for over maybe 10, 15 years, but she had left that relationship like 10 years ago. That's what it was. So of course you can imagine that if you have not been in this relationship for over 10 years, the evidence is not going to be, copious. She didn't divorce him because, remember, with VAWA cases, you have to file within 2 years of the divorce. She didn't divorce him, but they were still married, legally, right? And so we didn't have a lot of evidence because a lot of it had gotten lost in the move, right? When I think he kicked her out of the house. She didn't have much with her, but she had a couple of things, She had a picture of him burning her clothes, right? And we had to really dig deep to get even that evidence. And we wrote a powerful declaration. I remember that case. This woman was so traumatized by this man. Oh my goodness. I remember this case. She was so traumatized. And I remember how defeated she was. Like, she had been in this country for such a long time. This man left her without, much going on for her. She didn't have a work permit. She really couldn't support herself. She was actually depressed, And I remember when I spoke to her, it was hard getting her motivated to file the case. It took a while before we could get anything from her because she kept giving up. She's like, you know what? I don't have this. I don't have that. Listen, we're not going to win this. I don't even want to pursue it. And I said to her, what do you have to lose? Let's try. You might have more evidence than you realize. So finally, we got her to sit down with us to do the declaration. We were able to bring out all that she went through. And that declaration interview was so emotional. We had to keep taking breaks because she kept crying. She still didn't have a lot of evidence, but guess what? Her VAWA was approved. They called her for an I-485 interview, right? And November 10th, or thereabouts, we had to submit something they needed, and November 16th, she got her green card. So I tell you guys this because there's somebody out there who wants to file, but who's thinking, oh, they don't have enough evidence. Listen, invest in yourself, right? If it was easy to win cases, you wouldn't need attorneys. But a lot of these cases that are complex, that's where we shine because we dig deep. We pull out the case laws. We think outside the box. And I tell you, we love challenging cases because there's something about, it's almost like you're Sherlock Holmes. You're looking, finding, digging, trying to get this information. And sometimes your client gives you something and you're like, you know what? If this is all you have, we're going to have to make it work, And then we put a package together and we submit. And we pray over the package and send it out. And so I want to talk to somebody out there who is letting all this optics scare them. You're looking at the news and you're afraid to file when you should actually be filing now. And the reason is because the law is changing every day. So what you may be eligible for today, you might not be eligible for it in another week. So you want to make sure that if you talk to an attorney and the attorney is telling you that you qualify for something and there's no risk or minimal risk to you, you want to go ahead and file the petition, because even though it's scary, having a pathway allows you to have something that can benefit you in the future. I know a woman whose child is 21 and she's afraid to file. I'm telling you guys, this administration is working with every agency. If they want to find you, it's not hard. You really want to have something that allows your lawyer to argue on your behalf. All right? So I had another VAWA case that was recently approved. Our client literally had also nothing. And I remember these cases because it was really hard to put together, because it was like, where can we get evidence? And they gave us, I think with our client, it was actually the declaration, the affidavits, and we were able to show what he went through. He was abandoned by his spouse, right? Abandoned when he was sick. And there was a lot of threats, putting him down and all that. It wasn't a physical abuse case. It was an emotional abuse case. So my thing is this, guys, stop playing into this fear, okay? Fear is crippling. Fear will not get you anywhere, all right? You owe it to yourself to take that risk, right? If you're talking to an attorney who is experienced and who is, who is ethical, they will tell you the truth so that you get to decide whether it's a risk you want to take, right? And a lot of people who think that they are risk, you'd be surprised that those risks do not apply to you, but they may apply to somebody else. So what I'm saying now is it is important for you to understand your case. Book a consultation with one attorney, maybe two, so that you definitely have an idea of what the risks are, because the law is changing literally every day, right? So while the administration is out there trying to scare people, immigration lawyers are working hard. We're filing lawsuits. There was a judge in, I think it was Chicago, that determined that people who had been arrested and put in detention by ICE during a specific period had to be released by November 21st. That's Friday. The judge ruled in favor of those undocumented people. So while it may look like nothing is going on, there are lots of lawsuits out there, just that the law takes, it takes a while for these things to come through. But in the interim, don't just sit there like a sitting duck, waiting for ICE to come upon you. Reach out to an attorney, find out what is available to you. You'd be shocked at the pathways that are available that you didn't know about. I've talked to people who have been in this country for a long time and didn't know that they qualified for T visa, trafficking visa, because nobody told them that. And we've been able to file, there's a client that we filed for that she was able to get her BFD. She got her work permit, and guess what? She's able to stay here at least comfortably. We have a client that got the T visa status, right? A lot of these people don't know that they qualify for a T visa because, first of all, it's not very common. And secondly, people don't know that they've been trafficked to a large extent. It's because of social media right now that people are understanding what a T visa is, what a U visa is, what SJIS is. And some of this, like SJIS, has, deadlines. So if you have a child who's under the age of 21, well, depending on some states, because some states, 18 would be, the child would have to have filed the petition, gotten the predicate order before the child turned 18. In some states it's 19, in some it's 21. Well, how are you going to know? You need to talk to an attorney, you need to do a consultation. And there are people that they would have qualified to file for this stuff, but they missed the deadline because they didn't know. So if you have no papers, this is not the time to just do nothing. This is actually the time to get really intentional about figuring out what you can do to put yourself in legal status, because we haven't even done 1 year of this administration. So we don't know what's going to happen in the future. I would tell people back in the day to file SJIS as soon as possible, because there was a time 2-3 years ago we were getting green cards for these kids literally within 5 months, within 6 months of application. And now that's not the case. Now SJIS, the priority date has retrogressed. So even if you get the SJIS approval, you have to wait for another 2, maybe 3 years, maybe even more, to get your green card. And that's because, the priority date retrogressed, changes. So this is the time to figure out what can work for you. This is the time to do what can work for you, because the future may not work for you, right? So I'm going to answer questions and see, hang on 1 second. Somebody said, how long does VAWA take to get approved? It's taking about 3.5 years now, so VAWA takes a long time. But guess what? It's worth it because VAWA is your petition. You're not relying on a spouse who may not be in a good mood on the day you go for the interview. You're not relying on a spouse who you need to make happy so that they, they file for you. You're not relying on a spouse who's going to hold you down and control you because you have no papers. VAWA is your case, right? It's a self-petition. The only thing is you can't get married while your VAWA is pending. Don't forget that if it's a marital situation, okay? Remember with VAWA, you can file as a spouse of an abused spouse of a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, or you can file as a child of a U.S. citizen or green card holder, or you can file as an abused parent of a U.S. citizen, right? So let's take other questions. Let's see, TikTok, what questions do you have for me? Let me see. If you have any questions, this is a good time to put them up so that I can answer your questions. All right, I'm not seeing any questions, but I have this really weird configuration here because I have like my computer, I have a phone, and then I have an iPad. So I'm gonna be kind of looking in different directions just to get, so any questions on Instagram? I don't see any questions on Instagram either. And let's see, any questions on, yeah. Patricia says, thank you. You're welcome, Patricia. Then Praveen says, F3 immigration status for my wife. By father is a citizen showing 206 priority date. We can't do anything before priority date becomes current. Correct. So if you're F3, which is a married son or daughter of a U.S. citizen, you can file the I-130. Of course, the I-130 will likely at some point get approved, but then you really just have to wait until your priority date becomes current. And then at that point, NVC will send you information so that you can begin to upload your stuff in the portal. But it takes a while, so just hang in there. But ultimately, you'll get around to it. And in the interim, please make sure you're going to the gym. Try and be healthy, because with this new policy, if you're obese, even though you've waited all these years, the consular officer could deny you. So it is what it is. So somebody's asking, what can I do to cancel my interview? What is the reason you want to cancel your interview? I'm not sure. So, and because I want to tell you this, canceling your interview does not necessarily mean that USCIS won't issue you a notice to appear. So you might want to talk to an attorney to figure out what's going on, what options you have, whether cancellation of the interview is really what you want to do, okay? Oscar says, can someone get a K1 visa right now? Of course, all those visa pathways are still going through. We actually had one of our clients that came in on a K1. We just did an adjustment of status, and really relatively quickly, they called them for an interview, and he has his 10-year green card. So guys, we're winning cases. Attorneys are winning cases, and sometimes we have to fight hard to win those cases, but that's why we're attorneys, okay? We went to law school knowing that our job is to fight for clients. It's not meant to be easy. So we're not, feeling, dejected because now things are harder. Yes, it's harder, but guess what? We're up to the task. The Constitution, protects everyone, including immigrants, and we're here to, fight for our fellow immigrants. All right. So let's see. What other questions do you guys have? Let me see. I have to pull this. Okay. All right, I don't see any other questions, so I'm gonna head on out. But remember, this is a time for you guys to really reach out and figure out what pathways are available to you. And if you have a pathway available to you, really go ahead and file it, because that pathway may not be available in the future. That's number one. And number two, that pathway gives your attorney something to fight for you with. So Eta Onye says, my I-751 has been stuck since April 2022. I haven't received any correspondence. So Eta, I think by 2022, they were given 48-month extension letters. So if it's 2022, you still have till next year, 2026, because I'm not sure when you filed your I-751, but if you received a 48-month extension letter, then you know that they have up till then to respond to you. But if it's way over that, you may be able to do other things. So give us a call, 973-993-1900. Let's see if we can help you with that if it's if your case is out of processing times. All right, I think that's it, guys. So remember, if you are going for consular processing, the new directive by the Trump administration is certain health conditions can now disqualify you from getting your green card: obesity, diabetes, and all that. So you want to make sure that you can show that you have money. And the reason why this is so big is, well, how much money is enough? Nobody really knows what's going on. So I guess as people go in and are denied, then we can figure it out. And like I said, when that happens, attorneys will figure out what we can do. But in the interim, the best thing to do is you need to prepare for that interview to figure out what proof you can bring to the interview, okay? So Leo says, please answer my question. What's your question, Leo? I don't see the question. I'm gonna look through real quick. Abigail, can you contact me? Of course, 973-993-1900, call our office. So Yao says, I have gone for an interview since July 28, 2025, but still no response. That's not unusual, Yao. Sometimes they don't give you a response right away. Now, what kind of interview did you go to? Was it a green card interview or was it a naturalization interview? Because if it was a naturalization interview, they have to respond to you within 120 days. And if they don't, you can file a lawsuit. If it's a marriage-based green card interview, sometimes it takes a little while. I've known people that it's taken a year before they got a response. But if you have any concerns about something, talk to an attorney and share your concerns, okay? Because sometimes USCIS, after you have the physical interview, they do, they want to do some investigation to just make sure that some of the things that you said or your spouse said were accurate. Sometimes they do a fraud investigation. It really depends. But July 2025 is not that long for you to be so concerned. And a lot of people sometimes, some people, it takes a while for them to get a response, and they still get approved. So it's not, it doesn't automatically mean that there's an issue with your case. It's just that the person who did your interview is not has not been ready to give an answer. All right. So let's see. Somebody's asking me questions about EB1 or EB2. We don't do that anymore. So what else? Why did USCIS cancel your interview? Sometimes they do that and they reschedule you. Sometimes they do that. They don't tell us why they cancel the interview, but sometimes they will cancel an interview and reschedule it. So it must be some administrative issue. So someone says, which state are you in? So physically, we have offices in Cedar Knolls, New Jersey, and we have offices in Houston, Texas. But we represent clients in all 50 states, as you know, because immigration is federal law. So therefore, we can represent clients in all states, regardless of whether you are in proximity with our offices, okay? We even represent clients who are not in the United States. So yeah. All right, let's see. Any other questions? I'm really trying to answer some questions for you guys because it's what time is it now? It's 7:27 because I'm in Houston, and I have some time. It's different when I'm in the office and I'm trying to, rush it through so that I can get back to work. So if you guys don't have any questions, I'm going to head out. So Sweet Tintin says, do we help people apply for an IT number? No, we do not. But I believe you can apply for that on your own online, okay? All right, guys, take care and have a great, great weekend when we get to it. Today's Wednesday. All right, bye-bye.